You, me, let's go on a journey. Let's go through the realm of gaming as we unveil the creme of Nintendo masterpieces. From timeless classics to modern marvels. I wanted to make this a top 10 list so bad, and I just couldn't honestly delete one more game from this list. All 11 of these games are incredibly deserving of being on this list. And by no means is this a definitive list, so feel free to disagree in the comments down below. Just please bear in mind, please keep it civil, and be nice down there. This video is purely meant to appreciate Nintendo's best work. But before we jump in, let me just mention to you one thing. It's rare in life that things are free, but clicking the subscribe button is. And you know, I'm just saying, you should probably take advantage of that, you know? But with all that being said, let's get right into the video. Taking number 11, I have Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resorts. First off, I know what you're thinking. How can two games take up one spot? Simply put, you couldn't have Wii Sports Resorts without Wii Sports, so I deem both incredibly important and both deserving of just populating the same spot. So even though personally, and I think genuinely people will probably agree that Wii Sports Resorts is better, I do think both games should be in this slot. Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resorts continue to stand out as some of the best in the gaming universe. Wii Sports released in 2006, this game revolutionized gaming by introducing motion controls that made you feel like you were actually playing the sports. Roughly. From swinging a virtual tennis racket to knocking down pins in bowling, Wii Sports brought families and friends together in a way that really hadn't been done with games before. It wasn't just a game, it was a social experience that transcended age and skill levels. But the fun didn't stop there either. Enter Wii Sports Resorts, the 2009 sequel that took the whole experience to a whole new level. With the introduction of the Wii Motion Plus accessory, the precision of the motion controls soared, making every swing, thrust, and toss more immersive than ever. When you booted up your Wii and landed on Woohoo Island, you know you were going to have a good time. Wii Sports Resorts expanded and doubled the sports and events you could play, and kept players hooked for hours on end. But what makes these games so truly special? Well, it's the universal appeal. Whether you were a seasoned gamer or a first-time player, the intuitive controls make it super easy for anyone to pick up and play. And although some people might not agree with this pick, I firmly believe these games deserve a spot on this list. And moving on to number 10, I have Fire Emblem Awakening. Hear me out. Released in 2012 for the Nintendo 3DS, Fire Emblem Awakening revitalized this dying tactical RPG series. But what truly sets Fire Emblem Awakening apart is its ingenious marriage of gameplay and narrative. The game introduced the iconic pair-up system where characters fought side by side, building bonds and relationships. And depending with who was paired with who, it created bonds between the units. The choices you made impacted the abilities and the stats of future generations of units. And it was incredibly fun playing Cupid and pairing up the units to either make their children be the offspring of your favorite characters, or you could go completely meta and make them busted Gale Force menaces. It's up to you. And let's not forget the stunning art and captivating music that breathed life into the world of Elise. The critical acclaim showered upon Fire Emblem Awakening was well deserved. The game was a strategic masterpiece that welcomed both newcomers with its brand new casual mode and longtime players alike. The resurrection of the Fire Emblem series was complete, and it left behind an incredible mark in Nintendo's lineup history. And although this game was one of the first great divides between the new and the old school Fire Emblem players, I think it's worth celebrating for being the Hail Mary the series desperately needed. In slot number 9, I have Metroid Prime. Let's talk about it. Released in 2002 for the Nintendo GameCube, Metroid Prime was a bold departure from the series' traditional side-scrolling roots. It seamlessly blended atmospheric exploration and intense combat that thrust players into the armor-clad boots of the iconic bounty hunter Samus Aran. The transition to the first-person perspective was groundbreaking, creating a sense of isolation and wonder as players delve into the deep, uncharted territories of the depths of the planet Talon 4. But what truly set Metroid Prime apart was the innovative scanning mechanics. Suddenly, the environment wasn't just a backdrop, it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Scanning creatures, artifacts, and lore deepened the narrative and rewarded players with crucial insights. It was a stroke of genius that encouraged exploration and engagement, making every corner of the game a potential source of discovery. The critical acclaim and lasting legacy of Metroid Prime speaks volumes. The game set a new standard for immersion and storytelling in the gaming industry. Metroid Prime didn't just capture the essence of exploration, It propelled the Metroid franchise to new heights and left a mark in the players' hearts. And although the controls of the original GameCube version probably hasn't really stood the best in the test of time, the Switch remaster doesn't just make the game look the best it ever has and make it available for modern audiences, it also makes the game control better than it ever has, making this the definitive version to play in my opinion. In number 8, I have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Melee. Let me explain. Let's start with Smash Bros. Melee, a game that not only defined a genre, but created a community and competitive scene that stood the test of time. Released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2001, Super Smash Bros. Melee took the beloved crossover fighting game series that started on the Nintendo 64 to new heights. With an expanded roster of characters, stages, and fast-paced combat systems, Melee quickly became an instant hit. But what truly encapsulated Melee into the realm of greatness was its unexpected emergence as a competitive esport phenomenon. The lightning-fast gameplay, eradicated combo systems, and a skill ceiling that seemed to reach the stars turned Melee into a staple at tournaments worldwide. The wave dashing and advanced techniques became a language spoken by a dedicated community of players, turning every match into a spectacle of skill, strategy, and sheer excitement. Although I'm what some might describe as ass at the game, the grassroots community that sprouted around Super Smash Bros. Melee is nothing short of legendary. Fast forward 17 years, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate releases. Released in 2018 for the Nintendo Switch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate shattered expectations with the most ambitious crossover in gaming history, featuring a roster of over 70 characters at launch, and even more added through DLC. Ultimate united the gaming icons from various franchises under one single banner. The reason I have such a hard time deciding which one's better over the other is because even though Ultimate was much more ambitious than Melee, what it boils down to is what is more important, ambition or staying power. Let's put it this way, if you're watching this a few years down the line, when the next Smash Bros. Game releases, if everybody tossed Ultimate aside and never looked at it again, I feel like the answer would have been made for us. For number 7, I have Pokemon Black and White. Released in 2010 for the Nintendo DS, Pokemon Black and White introduced us to the 5th generation of Pokemon in the Unova region. The DS era of Pokemon was probably the last era that was unarguably fantastic, and they were also the last of its kind for the 2D Pokemon games. And although Pokemon Black and White 2 exist, I feel like they are equally excellent, so because of that, there would be no Pokemon Black and White 2 without the originals, so the originals made the list. The cycle of spring, summer, fall, and winter not only affected the appearance of the landscape, but also influenced the availability of Pokemon. It was a subtle yet immersive touch that added a layer of realism to the Pokemon world. Additionally, the animated spirits in battle brought these creatures to life like never before. And the music was just the bow on top of such an amazing game. And we unfortunately came a long way since this game has come out. And I'm sure the Pokemon Company is probably going to attempt to remake this game in some form sooner rather than later. And with their current track record, unfortunately, that's a scary thought. And at number 6, we have Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I know it's a new game, but I really think this one is going to be highly regarded for a long time. This side-scrolling adventure brought Mario back to his roots, and with a modern twist that captivated players of all ages. What sets this game apart is the Wonder Flowers. Although completing a level without them is optional, you're missing half of the experience without them. They can quickly turn a level into something completely unexpected. Sometimes you transform, sometimes the stage transforms, and sometimes you get inserted into a game show. Almost every stage has a completely unique Wonder Flower, making every level special in its own way. And don't even get me started on how this game is practically bursting at the seams with personality. And of course, what's a Mario adventure without the power-ups? Super Mario Bros. Wonder introduced the Elephant Apple, the Bubble Flower, and the Drill Mushroom, each adding a new dimension to Mario's abilities and offering a creative way to tackle the stages. Not to mention the return of classic power-ups like the Fire Flower. And on top of all of that, they also added a badge feature. After completing certain special stages, you can unlock some sort of basically permanent power-up that you can use during levels. And some levels, to fully experience and collect all the things you need to collect, will require you to go and use different badges. I'm really hoping I'm not just being blinded by relevancy bias, but I really think that this is a game that is going to be a modern classic. And that brings us to the top 5. Taking place number 5, I have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, is this game my favorite in the franchise? No, but I would be lying if I said this one wasn't the best. Zooming onto the scene in 2017, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe took the beloved kart racing franchise to new sales heights. With stunning visuals and dynamic race courses, no wonder this port was owned by pretty much every single Switch owner out there. There's not that much to say about this game in my opinion. Mario Kart is just one of those franchises that you have really little reason to go back and play the older versions. But even over the original Wii U version, a second item slot was added in a proper battle mode. But one thing I'm grateful for is that at least this was a really good entry because Nintendo's really making us wait for Mario Kart 9. Moving on, 4th place goes to Splatoon. This is another weird one where theoretically every time they release a new one it will always be the best one. So because of that, I'm not going to say one is better than the other because they're kind of same-ish in that sense. But Splatoon burst onto the scene in 2015, bringing a new wave of creativity and chaos. The game's signature Turf War mode transforms online multiplayer battles into a paint-soaked battleground. Team up with fellow Inklings, roll, swim, and splat your way to victory in a race to cover the arena with your own team's vibrant ink. It's fast-paced, it's strategic, and it's more importantly, oozing with style. Mix and match a plethora of stylish gear not only to look good, but also enhance your Inkling's abilities. The regular updates these games get, themed events, and the introduction of new stages and weapons keep the experience ever evolving. And even though Splatoon as a series isn't that old, Nintendo already considers it as one of those main IPs that can stand up with The Legend of Zelda and Mario. But ultimately, I think Splatoon's future is very bright. And that brings us to the top 3. I think the 3rd best Nintendo game of all time goes to Super Mario Galaxy, and I'll say 1 and 2 just to save the peace. I couldn't decide either to put these games or Odyssey, but I chose Galaxy. And honestly, they could probably be interchangeable. But even though I like Super Mario Galaxy more, there's still so much to love about Odyssey. The only reason I didn't pick it is because for me, Odyssey just feels like a big game of hide and seek. In 2007, Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii defied gravity and traditional platforming conventions. Mario, propelled by the power of the stars, soared through galaxies with spherical landscapes. But what truly set Super Mario Galaxy apart was its whimsical creativity. The game introduced inventive power-ups like the Bee Mushroom, turning Mario into a bee, or the Boo Mushroom, allowing him to float through the air as a ghost. The level design was a masterpiece, with each galaxy offering a unique and awe-inspiring experience. The soundtrack of Super Mario Galaxy was yet another marvel. The whimsical tunes and orchestral arrangements perfectly complemented the cosmic atmosphere. The game received widespread critical acclaim and numerous awards, solidifying its place as one of the greatest Mario's adventures of all time. 3 years later, Super Mario Galaxy 2 comes out, and it's just as strong. Although I have a personal preference for the first game, the sequel was filled with new levels that was just as fun as the first one, with new power-ups like the Cloud Flower, the Rock Mushroom, and visits from Yoshi. But both games are just simply masterpieces. The second best Nintendo game of all time is The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and I'll put Majora's Mask in there as well. Released for the Nintendo 64, Ocarina of Time took players on an epic journey through time, introducing a 3D open world that was revolutionary for its era. But what truly sets Ocarina of Time apart was its groundbreaking gameplay mechanics. The introduction of the Z targeting system revolutionized combat, providing a level of precision and strategy that was unprecedented. Link could now focus on specific enemies, execute precise attacks, and seamlessly switch between sword and other tools, a true leap forward in gaming innovation. And then there was the music, a timeless melody that still resonates with fans to this day. The ocarina, Link's musical instrument, allowed players to interact with the world in ways never seen before. Whether it be playing tunes to summon wind or even teleport to specific locations, the ocarina added a layer of depth and magic that elevated the game to an unforgettable experience. Ocarina of Time didn't just offer gameplay innovations, it told a captivating story. The narrative unfolded with moments of triumph, loss, and the eternal struggle against Ganondorf. As the first 3D installment in the Legend of Zelda series, it's not just the nostalgia that speaks. It's the enduring impact and influence it had on the entire gaming industry. And before I say the #1 game of all time for Nintendo, I only want to go over a few honorable mentions because they really did deserve being mentioned at least. And my personal #1 Nintendo game of all time is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom. You probably saw that one coming, but still. In 2017, Breath of the Wild graced the Nintendo Switch and Wii U, introducing us to a Hyrule like never before. The game shattered conventions, giving players the freedom to explore a vast open world that felt alive and teeming with mysteries. What made Breath of the Wild so groundbreaking was its approach to gameplay. The introduction of an open world structure coupled with dynamic weather, realistic physics, and a myriad of interactive elements created an environment where every action had consequences. From cooking recipes to solving puzzles, the game rewarded creativity and critical thinking. The Sheikah Slate, a magical and versatile tool, became Link's companion on this journey. Magnesis, stasis, and the ability to create ice pillars opened up a new dimension of puzzle solving and traversal. The game encouraged players to experiment and approach challenges in ways that felt personal and unique. The ambient soundtrack complemented the vast landscapes and diverse environments of Hyrule. The subtle melodies and sweeping orchestrations added depth to the world. And although the storytelling wasn't the best, if I had to be honest, the pieces of a great story was there. And somehow, despite being borderline perfect, Nintendo did it again, following up with the game Tears of the Kingdom. This game managed to revitalize an already pretty vast world, adding both an underworld and a sky world, and also revamping the Sheikah Slate powers with new skills that are incredibly amusing to mess around Hyrule with. And although Nintendo will probably one day make a game better than these, I think it's going to be in a very, very long time from now. But it'll be a game that will be well worth the wait. If you made it all the way here into this video, hopefully it's worth liking and subscribing now. And until next time, Waddell.